we didn't had much. We didn't get time for reflections yesterday. Anyone wants to share something? Where we want to discuss briefly, recap. Prabhupada is going to India. Yes or no? Oh, on the way he's to the airport. Kirtanananda and everybody is sitting, and Prabhupada's idea, and I'll be back. He says that I'll be back, Rairam, he should go to this country, Russia, Japan, Russia, and what else here? It's England. So everyone is crying. Everyone is really missing. Not sure he will be back or not. Devotees are really feeling separation already. They wanted to go. Some of the devotees wanted to go to India.
He gave a lot of initiations in San Francisco.
Yeah, he gave a lot of initiations last month. Just before going to airport, also he gave initiations. Anything?
Ravindra Swarupa, actually, he fell down. He left.
Left. Yeah. Ravindra Swarupa left. Okay, I think it's good. So we'll continue from today. Brahmananda began to cry, and Prabhupada patted him on the back. I can understand that you are feeling separation, he said, but I'm feeling for my Guru Maharaj. I think this is what Krishna desires. You may be coming there to me. You may be coming there to me and be training up. We will spread this moment all over the world. Rairam, you will go to England. Brahmananda, you want to go to Japan or Russia. That's all right. The devotees do not know Prabhupada has all these plans, big plans, going to different countries. The devotees conversed on the Air India waiting room near a crowded cocktail lounge. Wearing a sweater, his chadar folded neatly over one shoulder, Prabhupada sat in a chair. His disciples sat as closely as possible around his feet. He held an umbrella, just as when he had first come alone to New York, almost 2 years ago. Although exhausted, he was smiling. Prabhupada noted a mural of Indian women carrying large jars on their heads. And he called the name of a young girl who had recently gone with her husband, Hamsadutta, to join the ISKCON Center in Montreal. Himavati would like to go to India and learn to carry this water pot like the Indian woman. Or she's asking, Himavati, would you like to go to India and learn to carry this water pot like the Indian woman? Yes, he said, I will go. Yes, Srila Prabhupada said, someday we will all go. Kirtanananda was carrying a portable battery-operated phonograph and 2 copies of the Hare Krishna mantra record. Kirtanananda, Prabhupada asked, why not play the record? They will enjoy. Kirtanananda played the record very softly. Its sound catching the attention of people in the cocktail lounge. Make it a little louder, Prabhupada asked. And Kirtanananda increased the volume. Prabhupada began nodding his head, keeping time. Soon the devotees began humming along with the record and then quietly singing until gradually they are singing loudly. Kirtananda, Brahmananda and other devotees began to cry. Hamsadutta, I was sitting right next to Swamiji and all the time I was thinking, oh, my spiritual master is going to India. And he said, I want to die in Vrindavan. We all knew Swamiji was going, but now it was the last moment. I was also seeing that I hadn't done anything for my spiritual master. He doesn't even know who I am. I thought, there's no relationship. I must do something. I must do something now. I must serve him in some way which will establish some place in his heart. Something. I was thinking, what can I do? I was crying and he didn't even look at me. It was like I wasn't even there. Just like a chair or something. He was just always looking around and everything. I was trying to catch his eye if all of a sudden he would say something. The kirtan was getting heavier and heavier, and so was the crying. And the people in the waiting room were just looking at Swamiji like he was someone very special. And in the middle of it all, Swamiji was completely relaxed, as if this were his place and this was just a normal thing to do. So this is in the waiting hall for the airport, New York airport, and devotees are surrounded. Prabhupada is making little humors, inspiring everybody that he will go to India. They're excited. Now Prabhupada asked him to play the phonograph, battery operated phonograph. So the volume increased. Everybody started a little singing and crying as well. Here Hamsadutta Prabhu is sharing that he was feeling separation and he was feeling that deep, intense desire to serve. I'm not sure if I'll be able to see him. What can I do for him? He was really emotional and crying and everything. And he was thinking Prabhupada is not even paying attention to him. He may not even doesn't know me very well. But he had a strong desire to do something for his spiritual master. So Prabhupada was sitting as if not impacted, relaxed, and no one knows whether he's going to come or not, all these things. Yeah.
When the record ended, Hamsadutta asked Swamiji, "Can I take a collection?" Prabhupada nodded. Hamsadutta stood and made a little speech. "Our mission is to spread Krishna consciousness. We have a temple in New York. We are always badly in need of money. Please help us." Borrowing a hat from a soldier, Hamsadutta went around taking a collection. "Our traveling is very auspiciously beginning," Prabhupada said. "We had a nice kirtan and we had a nice collection. It is all Krishna's mercy." Then it was time to board the plane. Prabhupada embraced each of his men. They stood in a line and one after another approached him and embraced him. He patted a few of the women on the head. Rupanuga. Swamiji was embracing the man, Kirtananda Brahmananda Gargamuni. I never expected that he would ask me to step forward. I did not consider myself in the same category with the other devotees, so I was very much surprised when Swamiji motioned to me and spoke my name, Rupanuga. I got up and walked to Swamiji. It might have been 10 feet, but it seemed like a long distance. I embraced him, and that embrace was the most memorable embrace of my life. Right away, I noticed Srila Prabhupada's strength. He was so strong. It was like embracing a young man, a man my age. I was 27, and he seemed even stronger and younger than I. And he hugged me tightly, and I also embraced him very firmly. He was smaller than me in stature, so I instinctively buried my chin in the hollow of his left shoulder. While I was embracing him, I felt very blissful and I felt a light. I felt there was a light, something bright and pure, some kind of energy emanating from my face. I opened my eyes and I saw Kirtananda watching. He was standing behind Swamiji a few feet away, and I looked right into his eyes, and I was so happy and blissful that it reflected in him somehow. He broke into a big smile, smiled at me, and his eyes were very bright. It was as if some spiritual energy was actually emanating from me. The airport scene was a very important part of my life because for me, a person who always had difficulty in loving another person, Swamiji's leaving force out Lot of love from my heart. I did not even know was there. It is like becoming a spiritual person when you feel love really developing for the spiritual master. I was becoming a spiritual person. It was a tremendous outpouring of feelings of separation and grief at his departure because we all knew he was our life and soul, and to a person none of us were sure we would ever see him again.
Hmm. So it's like so very, everyone is feeling deep impact into their life, Prabhupada's presence. And now, now Hamsadatta is asked, if you can make collection. I was wondering what collection. So looks like he did good collection. Prabhupada said, we had a nice kirtan, we had nice collection, all auspicious. Then it was time to board the plane. He unexpectedly, everyone got embraced from Prabhupada. And they all know very well his position in one sense. So Upanaga Prabhu is sharing that he didn't expect that Prabhupada would embrace him and actually embraced all the men and touched the head of all the daughters, humans. So he's sharing how special it was for him to experience this spiritual experience of getting embraced by Prabhupada. So it was a big thing for them, but they don't know whether they will see him again or not. But that's let's see, Krishna's plan. Okay, Prasanthi, please.
Accompanied by Kirtanananda, whose head was shaven and who wore an incongruous black woolen suit, Prabhupada walked slowly towards the gate. As he disappeared from view, the devotees ran for the observation deck to get a last look at his departing plane. A gentle rain was washing the airfield as the devotees raced across the wet observation deck. There below were Prabhupada and Kirtanananda walking towards their plane. Abandoning decorum, the devotees began to shout. Prabhupada turned and waved. He climbed the movable stairway, turning again at the top and raising his arms, and then entered the plane. The devotees chanted wildly while the boarding steps moved away. The door closed and the plane began to turn. The devotees had pressed close to the rail, but they walked back as the jet exhaust blasted them with heat. With a great roar, the Air India jet, lights blinking, taxied out to the runway. The devotees continued to chant Hare Krishna until the plane left the ground, became a speck in the sky, and then disappeared. Prabhupada and Kirtanananda both walked towards the gate, and all the other devotees were watching them from the observation deck. There was a gentle rain, and all the devotees were chanting, and Prabhupada turned back and waved to them. And finally, he went up the staircase and then turned back again, stepping into the plane. And the devotees were waiting till the plane disappeared into the sky as a speck.
Thank you so much. With this, we are beginning another chapter, chapter 27, India Revisited, part 1. Nipa, you can read.
Hare Krishna. The plane flew during the night and arrived in London by morning. Srila Prabhupada had planned a stopover. He checked into an airport hotel, took his massage and rested. In the afternoon he rose and bathed, and then he and Kirtanananda boarded their plane, bound for New Delhi via Moscow. While the plane was still on the ground, however, a crew member announced a short delay due to health regulations. A passenger who had disembarked earlier that day was now sick, apparently with smallpox. So the plane would have to be thoroughly fumigated. Prabhupada and Kirtanananda stayed in the room at the Excelsior Hotel for the night. Early the next morning, July 24th, seated in their hotel room, complete with air conditioning and television, neither of which he had used, Srila Prabhupada wrote a letter to Brahmananda in New York. Accept my blessings. I'm always thinking of your separation feelings. Please do your duty nicely, and Krishna will help you in all respects. We were delayed here for 16 hours. Starting this morning at 9 for Delhi, the attention of Mr. B.K. Nehru, the ambassador of India, was drawn to me the other day. I've told him about my permanent visa and he has promised to help me when I come back. Please make an appointment with him informing that I wish to present him our set of Bhagavatam and our other literatures. Then go to him and personally present the books, etc. at Washington, D.C. It may be that as soon as I feel some strength, I shall be coming back. Up to now, there was no disturbance about my health, and I hope to reach Delhi this night. I shall write you again after reaching Vrindavan. Convey my ardent affection and blessings for all the boys and girls. I am very much hopeful of my movement. Please keep steady, follow all my instructions scrupulously. Chant Hare Krishna and Krishna will give you all the strength. Prabhupada and Kirtanananda flew to Moscow. There they walked around the terminal, observing what Prabhupada called propaganda pictures. After 1 hour stop over, they reboarded and flew another 8 hours, arriving in Delhi around midnight. The wall of heat that greeted them felt good to Prabhupada. He had come for this. Inside the airport terminal, overhead, fans stirred the muggy air as Prabhupada and Kirtanananda stood in slow-moving lines while uninformed clerks checked passports and customs forms without Western-style computers or efficiency. Just beyond the areas for immigration and customs, people waiting for arriving passengers. So here it says these paragraphs describes the plane that flew that night during the night and arrived in London by morning. And Prabhupada had planned stopover. He took a massage and rested, bathed, and then Kirtanananda boarded their plane bound for New Delhi via Moscow. While the plane was on the ground, there was a short delay, and the passenger, because there was a passenger who was sick with smallpox, so the plane had to be fumigated, and Prabhupada and Kirtanananda had to stay in Excelsior Hotel for the night. The next morning, in the hotel room, complete with AC and television, which was neither used, Srila Prabhupada started writing a letter to Brahmananda in New York. In the letter, he's saying, accept my blessings, and he describes how his plane was delayed for 16 hours and starting this morning at 9 for Delhi. And then he mentions about Mr. B.K. Nehru, the ambassador of India, was drawn to him the other day. And he had mentioned about the permanent visa he promised to Prabhupada. And he's mentioning to Brahmananda to make an appointment with him and present him the set of Bhagavatam and other literatures at Washington, D.C. It may be soon that he will feel strengthened and he might be coming back. And he also conveyed ardent affection and blessings for all the boys and the girls and said to them to continuously follow the instructions and chant the Hare Krishna mantra, and Krishna will definitely give the strength to everyone. And then Prabhupada and Kirtanananda flew to Moscow and observing there were some propaganda pictures. After 1 hour stopover, they reboarded the plane and flew another 8 hours, arriving Delhi in midnight. And there was a wall of heat that greeted them, which felt good to Prabhupada. And inside the airport terminal, fans stirred the muggy air at Kirtanananda and Prabhupada as they stood in slow-moving lines of the customs and doing all the formalities because it was like not like the Western-style computers or efficiency. And beyond the areas of immigration and customs, people were waving and calling their name out and coming out with friends and family members.
You finished this one, the wall of heat, or no?
Yeah, the wall of heat. I did that up till that paragraph. Yes.
AJ?
After Prabhupada and Kirtananda claimed their luggage and cleared customs, they stood on the sidewalk outside the terminal. Although Prabhupada had removed his sweater, Kirtananda stood sweltering in his black wool suit. It was 2 a.m. All around, passengers were meeting loved ones who embraced them, sometimes even garland them, and helped them into cars or taxis, but no one was there for Prabhupada. It was certainly different from the recent tearful airport scenes where Prabhupada had been with his loved ones. Now, instead of being surrounded by his loving disciples, Prabhupada was besieged by taxi drivers and porters wanting to carry his luggage for a fee. In Hindi, Prabhupada asked one of the drivers to take them to Chippiwada in Old Delhi. The driver put their luggage in the trunk, and Prabhupada and his disciple climbed into the back seat. The small ambassador taxi drove through streets well known to Srila Prabhupada. Nighttime traffic was light, an occasional taxi or motor rickshaw. Mostly the streets were empty and quiet, the shops closed, an occasional person or cow sleeping outdoors. Just a few years before, Prabhupada had sold Back to Godhead magazines, solicited donations, and printed his Srimad Bhagavatams here. In those days, he had been alone, practically without any money or residence. Yet he had been happy, completely dependent on Krishna. But India's leaders were rejecting Vedic culture and imitating the West. Although some Indians still professed to follow Vedic culture, mostly they were victims of hodgepodge teachers who didn't accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he had felt obliged to leave, to go and transplant the Vedic culture in the West. He had held strictly to the vision of his predecessors, spiritual masters, and he had been proven right. The West was a very good field for Krishna consciousness. As the taxi drove through Old Delhi and approached Chowri Bazaar, Prabhupada saw the printing and paper shops, now closed for the night, and the usual dense traffic of human-hauled carts was now absent, though some laborers were sleeping on their carts till the morning, when they would bathe in an outdoor well and begin another day's hauling. When Srila Prabhupada had been overseeing the publishing of his first volumes of Srimad Bhagavatam, he had daily walked these streets, buying paper, picking up proofs from the printer, returning with corrected proofs. His first canto had been a triumph. So Prabhupada and Kirtananda, landed in India, and after they had just left, to cheering and crying crowds, they get to India, and it's nobody, right? Nobody's there to greet them.
Yeah.
It's just a very different scene, and so Prabhupada just kind of looking around, and he remembers the area, and they get in a cab and they start heading towards Chippiwada, and he's as he's going, it's just kind of describing the scene in India at the time, and he talks about how reminisces a bit of back when he was selling Back to Godhead and where he had the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam printed, and how he had no money and no place to live really, but he was happy and dependent on Krishna. And it talks about the culture of India at the time when he left, and how Vedic culture was kind of being pushed out and being replaced by imitations of Western culture. But and some people still were claiming to follow Vedic culture, but it wasn't Krishna consciousness. It wasn't. They didn't accept Krishna as the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he just took his spiritual master's mission, and went to America and found it was a good place to spread Krishna consciousness. And then again, it just kind of the last paragraph there, it talks about how he saw the old print shops and the laborers, and kind of recalling when he used to cruise up and down those streets and everything during the printing of the first canto.
Thank you. Second proof.
Chowri Bazaar led to the side streets that led to the narrow lanes of Chippiwada, where upright metal posts blocked autos and rickshaws from entering. The driver stopped the taxi on an empty road and turned for his payment. Prabhupada took from his billfold 40 rupees, the same 40 rupees he had arrived with him on the boat to America in 1965. But the driver took the entire 40 rupees and said he would keep it all as the just fare. Prabhupada protested. The fare should not be even half that. Loudly, they argued back and forth in Hindi. The driver had pocketed the money and would give no change. Prabhupada knew that to get a policeman at this hour would be very difficult. Finally, although this had been nothing less than a robbery, Prabhupada let the man go. He cheated me, Prabhupada said. He and Kirtananda took their luggage and walked the last block up to the door of Chippivada Radhakrishna temple. It was locked. As they pounded loudly, Prabhupada called out for Sri Krishna Pandit until a man came to the door, recognized Prabhupada and let them in. The man showed them upstairs and unlocked the door to Prabhupada's room. Prabhupada turned on the light. The room was bare and dusty, and the bulb hanging from the ceiling created stark light and shadows. On the floor was the 3-foot-high cement dome, indicating that directly below were the altar and the deities of Radha and Krishna. The dome prevented anyone from accidentally committing the offense of walking directly above the deities. The closet was stacked with printed Srimad Bhagavatam pages, Srimad Bhagavatam dust jackets, and form letters to prospective members of the League of Devotees. Everything was just as Prabhupada had left it. This is the room where I completed Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada told Kirtananda. I slept here, and over here was my cooker and my typewriter. I would sleep and type and cook and type and sleep and type. Kirtananda was shocked to think of Swamiji living here in such a poor, humble place. It was not even clean. So here, Prabhupada, they take the taxi and they reach the Radhakrishna temple, and basically the Prabhupada gave the taxi driver 40 rupees, and the taxi driver was not giving him any change. And he just, Prabhupada argued with him, saying that that is not just, and there was no policeman here to, so basically Prabhupada let him have the money, and he said that he was cheating him. And when they came to the Chippivada Radhakrishna temple, it was locked, and when they basically banged at the door, somebody came and opened it. He recognized Prabhupada and showed him his room upstairs. So the room was still dusty. It was not clean, and basically it was on the floor above, and there was a dome where they were the altar and deities were below the dome. And basically the closet had all of the books and the Srimad Bhagavatam jackets that Prabhupada had. It was exactly the same before he left, and it had a lot of letters that he had for the prospective members of the League of Devotees. And he showed Kirtananda that he slept here, and here it was his cooker and typewriter, and he would say that he would spend all his time just typing, cooking, and sleeping. So he was doing all his work translating when he was staying there. And Kirtananda was shocked about like Swamiji living here in such a poor, humble place when it was not even clean.
Sridhari? Srikar?
Although Kirtananda was uncomfortable in his suit and wondered when he would be able to get rid of it, he managed to get a thin mattress for Swamiji. 2 Ayurvedic doctors came. They both agreed that the trouble was Swamiji's heart, but that the danger was now past. They gave him medicines and advised him to keep a regulated schedule of eating, resting, and working. Sri Krishna Pandit came by to sit and converse, and Prabhupada told him of his success in America and of all the young devotees in New York and San Francisco. Prabhupada played his record for Sri Krishna Pandit, and this drew a crowd of curious persons from other rooms in the temple. In the afternoon, Prabhupada developed a cough. It didn't seem serious, and he said he wanted to travel the next day to Vrindavan. But by evening, the cough had become persistent. He could not rest. Kirtananda tried massages and the pills the Ayurvedic doctor had prescribed, but nothing worked. Prabhupada remained awake all night, and when Kirtananda touched him in the morning, he was feverish. The doctors came again. Prabhupada's temperature was over 104. They gave teas and Ayurvedic powders while Kirtananda looked on skeptically. Because Prabhupada was having a lot of difficulty breathing when he lay down, Kirtananda thought it might be pneumonia. So Kirtananda gave him penicillin, of which he had brought a supply. In the afternoon, an elderly sick doctor who practiced Western medicines came by and gave Prabhupada a penicillin injection. Prabhupada then fell asleep and rested quietly for the first time in 24 hours. While Prabhupada slept, Kirtananda wrote a letter to his godbrothers in New York. I know you would like me to say straight out of my opinion as to how he is, and that is not good. The outcome, as always, but now very apparently, is only in Krishna's hand. Please chant Hare Krishna, for that is the only thing that can save him. That is what saved him before, and that can do it again. I know that his task is not yet complete, and by Krishna's mercy, he can be spared. So again, in the room, Kirtananda, he somehow managed to bring a small mattress for Srila Prabhupada to take rest. And then in the morning, two Ayurvedic doctors came, and then they thought that Swamiji had some issues with his heart. He has some heart problem, but again, it's not very dangerous at the moment. And then they gave him some medicines, and then they advised him to take proper rest, eat on time, and then work in between. So, and then again, Sri Krishna Pandit, he came by to sit and then speak to Prabhupada. And then Prabhupada told him about his success in America and about all the devotees he made in New York and San Francisco. And although Prabhupada played his recording, which he recorded in America, and then a few curious crowd from the other room in the temple, they came in to see. And then again that afternoon, Srila Prabhupada developed some cough, but initially it did not seem very serious. And then so he wanted to travel to Vrindavan the next day. But as the day went by, in the evening, the cough became a little serious, and then he could not take rest. So Kirtananda, he tried massaging Srila Prabhupada, gave him some Ayurvedic pills that the doctors gave in the morning, but nothing worked. So Prabhupada did not sleep the entire night. And then next morning, when Kirtananda touched Srila Prabhupada, I mean, he was feverish. So then the Ayurvedic doctors, they came in again. So then and then when they checked the temperature, it was over 104. And then they gave some Ayurvedic medicine, some Ayurvedic powders, and then Kirtananda was looking at that little skeptically. And then Srila Prabhupada was having a lot of difficulty breathing when he lay down and was sleeping. So Kirtananda thought it might be pneumonia. So Kirtananda brought some penicillin supply with him. So he gave one shot of penicillin to Prabhupada. And that afternoon again, there was some sick doctor who practiced Western medicine. He came by, and then he also gave Srila Prabhupada the same penicillin injection. So after giving that injection, Prabhupada felt a little asleep, and then that was the first time he rested in the last 24 hours. And then when Srila Prabhupada took rest, Kirtananda wrote a letter to his godbrothers in New York. And then he was requesting all his godbrothers to chant Hare Krishna intensely, because Srila Prabhupada's health was still not good. So he was mentioning the letter that in the fast, when he was sick in America, New York, then the chanting helped. So similarly, even now, he was requesting all his godbrothers to chant intensely for Prabhupada. Only by Krishna's mercy that he can be spared.
Vijayanand Prabhu. Vijayanand Prabhu. Vijayanand Prabhu, can you hear me? Okay. Maybe Pranath, you can do
it. Hare Krishna. Kirtanananda also asked the New York devotees to call the devotees in San Francisco, Santa Fe, and Boston and have them continue chanting for Swamiji's health. He reminded them to strictly follow all of Swamiji's instructions. The next day, Srila Prabhupada's fever was down to 100.6. He was still sick, but he talked again of going to Vrindavan. He dictated a letter to his book-selling agents in Delhi, Atma Rama and Sons, asking them for an up-to-date account of their sales of his Srimad Bhagavatam. Old acquaintances came by and were disappointed to find Swamiji unable to accept their invitations. Prabhupada asked that they invite Kirtanananda in his instead. For several days, Kirtanananda visited the homes of these pious Hindus. He played the record on his portable phonograph, chanting along and dancing with his arms upraised. Then he would give a short speech. His host accepted him as a sadhu, fascinated that an American had taken so seriously to Krishna consciousness. On August 1st, after 6 days in Delhi, Prabhupada went to Vrindavan. Kirtanananda rode back to New York. My dear brothers and sisters, greeting in the name of Krishna from Vrindavan. Obviously, Swamiji is much better, especially after reaching Vrindavan. His eyes now have a special glow. We left Delhi yesterday, 31st morning on the Taj Express, and in 2 hours we're at Mathura. We rode special third class and it was quite satisfactory. Not at all crowded like the usual third class. Anyway, we are now here and are in the process of settling down. Swamiji has 2 very nice rooms, quite cool, just off the porch where the Bhagavatam is read. How appropriate. The only difficulty on his behalf is that these Indians all want to see him and they are very persistent, and I'm not very successful in keeping them out. Vrindavan, seen materially, is a very beautiful place. The country is very flat and there are many trees, monkeys, peacocks, and of course temples. It's also very poor. Both the people and the temples are in a bad state of disrepair. But spiritually considered, there are many great devotees here, and it is wonderful to walk down the streets and see tiloks all over the place and people chanting on their beads. If I can develop a fraction of their devotion for Krishna, my life will be successful. It's also thrilling to hear the temple bells ringing so many times throughout the day. Last night I played our record for Lord Damodar here in the temple and then performed kirtan with some of the local devotees. It was very nice, but you will be surprised, I think, when I say that I prefer your kirtan in New York. So Prabhupada was not doing well, and Kirtanananda asked devotees here in New York to chant. And the fever came down the next day, and Prabhupada was still sick, but wanted to go to Vrindavan, and he wrote a letter to his book-selling agents in Delhi. They were, taking care of the sales of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and a lot of Prabhupada's old acquaintances wanted to meet him. Or were inviting him, but it was just Prabhupada just was not or asked Kirtanananda to go instead of him or invite him instead of Prabhupada. And Kirtanananda visited many of those homes, and he played the record from New York and chanted and danced, gave a speech too, and they were very, enthused, fascinated by seeing an American taking up to Krishna consciousness so seriously. And then Prabhupada wrote a letter to, or Kirtanananda, I'm sorry. Prabhupada went to Vrindavan on August 1st, and Kirtanananda wrote a letter to the devotees in New York, and describing Prabhupada's health situation, and that Prabhupada left to Vrindavan, and they traveled through a special third class, and he's just describing the whole journey and Prabhupada's rooms in Vrindavan, and that again expressed the challenge and the difficulty that many Indians were facing who wanted to see Prabhupada, and that Kirtananda was not much successful in keeping them out, and then Vrindavan is describing Vrindavan, how beautiful the place is, with so many trees, peacocks, monkeys, and temples, and also was expressing his grief over the sad state of the temples and also the people, the devotees there in Vrindavan. But he was also very pleased at the same time to see so many great devotees all over in Vrindavan, and walking down the street, seeing them with tilak and chanting on the beads. And he was just very grateful, and was also pleased to hear these temple bells ringing all through the day, and also finally expressed happiness in playing the New York record kirtan for Lord Damodar and performed some kirtan with the local devotees. And then he concludes by saying that that the kirtan in New York is more pleasing than the kirtan that he's hearing here in India, or he heard in India.
Yeah. Now also many people bang in the temples, isn't it? They buy this machine, which now many other issues. They put this, I don't know if you all noticed, I've seen many places, they buy this mechanical drum and jung, 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 like that. There. In the offering arti, they put this mechanical machine to split them. Anyway, so.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, I'm here. Can I read?
Yeah, please.
Thank you. After Prabhupada had been in Vrindavana only one day and his health had only slightly improved, he began planning his return to America. I am always thinking of you, he wrote to the devotees whom he addressed as his dear students. I cannot stop my Western world activities and I have taken leave from you only for 6 months, and it may be that on or before I will come to you again. Kirtanananda says, from my bodily feature that I am improving. I'm also feeling like that. In Delhi, Prabhupada had received a letter from Brahmananda saying that the Macmillan Company was definitely interested in publishing the Bhagavad Gita. In Vrindavana, Prabhupada wrote Brahmananda to sign a contract at once on his behalf. Prabhupada had been considering whether to print privately in Japan or India or to wait for Macmillan. He wasn't concerned with the prestige and financial advantages of publishing through Macmillan. His first concern was to print as quickly as possible. I should be satisfied with the commission and shall only be glad to see that the books are being read by hundreds and thousands of men. Whatever profit may be derived from it will be utilized for the development of an American house here. Prabhupada stayed in his old rooms at the Radha Damodar temple, still encapsulated. He was being massaged and cared for by Kirtanananda, who himself was listless and tired from the heat. But Prabhupada continued to range from one active and ambitious vision for his youthful Krishna conscious movement to another. He would think aloud about the volumes of Srimad Bhagavatam ready to be published, if Macmillan would take them and the boys could act on his behalf. There was so much to do. He wanted to return by October and oversee things personally. Temperatures rose to more than 110 degrees, and Prabhupada and Kirtanananda had to stay inside with the doors shut and overhead fan on. Although Kirtanananda could barely perform his duties, Prabhupada found the heat bracing and said that it was restoring his health. Then after the first week, the monsoon rains began and the heat broke. So this is all explaining how Prabhupada recovered from his sickness, and how Kirtanananda was serving Prabhupada, but the sickness could not keep Prabhupada from doing what he was doing, which is trying to find a publisher for publishing Bhagavad Gita. And during that time, he received a letter from Ramananda saying that Macmillan Company is actually definitely interested in publishing Bhagavad Gita. And Prabhupada immediately replied to Brahmananda saying to sign the contract on his behalf, because he was actually not considering if it should be Macmillan or anything, but his first concern was to print the Bhagavad Gita as quickly as possible so it can reach people, hundreds and thousands of men, and they can start reading it. And Prabhupada also mentioned that he would like to go back to America, and he cannot rest for too long here. And while he was in India, recovering from his sickness, he would Brahmananda would serve Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was slowly getting better, and he would think aloud about Srimad Bhagavatam, which is ready to be published if Macmillan would take it up. And he wanted boys, meaning the devotees, to act on his behalf. So that shows the enthusiasm. Even though he was sick, he was old, nothing could stop him from moving ahead with the mission. And the temperatures were as high as 110 degrees. And Kirtanananda and Prabhupada would stay indoors with the fan on. Kirtanananda could barely perform his duties because of heat, but Prabhupada was slowly getting better. And then the first week of monsoons started, and the heat broke.
Nice, thank you. Vijayanand Prabhu, you want to read?
Yeah, Prabhu. On August 10, Kirtananda wrote home again. God, is it a hot place? But at last, the rains have started again, and there is some relief from the heat. You can believe me when I say it was hot, but now it is raining a great deal of the time, and that has made the weather quite comfortable for me, but unfortunately not for Swamiji. Also, I have developed the inevitable case of dysentery, which has been persisting for about which has been persisting for about a week now. Yesterday began the festival of Julan, in which the Radha and Krishna came out and swam for about 5 days. So I made the rounds of about a half dozen temples here. Some of them are extremely beautiful inside, although most are small. Still, I can say this with all truthfulness and sincerity that none are so transcendently beautiful and spiritual as 3720 Park Avenue, Montreal. And I think even Swamiji would agree with me there. Kirtananda's letter gave heart to the devotees back home and confirmed their suspicion. It was not Hinduism, not India, it was Swamiji and chanting Hare Krishna that was sustaining their spiritual life. As Prabhupada's spiritual children wrote from the fledgling centers in half of a dozen cities in North America, he would reply, Vrindavan is an inspiration only, but our real field work is all over the world. Even if I die, you are my future hopes and you will do it. I'm feeling very much for you all. Please let the ball roll on just as it is said. Brahman wrote from New York asking for an explanation of why Swamiji, a pure devotee, was suffering serious illness. Swamiji had explained that conditioned souls and even beginning devotees are attacked by Maya. But was Swamiji also attacked by Maya? On August 14, Srila Prabhupada replied. So here, like Kirtananda, he wrote a letter, and he was mentioning about the weather present at the place, which was very hot, and he could not even bear it. But at the same time, like there was a rainy season started, and he became like a bit comfortable, and And Swamiji did not see any issues actually, and he had also have some health issues. And in the festival of Julan, in which the Radha and Krishna came out and swing for 5 days, Kirtananda visited half a dozen temples, and he saw that the temples were extremely beautiful inside, but are very small. And he felt that none of them are transcendently beautiful than the Montreal temple, and he was claiming that even Swamiji will agree to that. And also, Kirtananda's letter gave the devotees back. They confirmed their suspicion. It was not the Hinduism or India. It was Swamiji and his the Hare Krishna Mahamantra was sustaining their spiritual life. And Prabhupada's spiritual children, all over pledging centers in half dozen cities in North America, they used to write letters, and Prabhupada would reply. And he was mentioning Vrindavan is an inspiration, but the actual real field work should happen all over the world. And even if Prabhupada dies, he was mentioning they are all their future hopes, and they will be doing it. He was mentioning that the ball should just roll on, just as he said. And once Brahmananda from New York was asking for an explanation to Swamiji, because even though Swamiji was pure devotee, he was suffering from illness, and Swamiji explained that conditioned souls, even beginning devotees, were attacked by Maya. And Brahmananda was asking whether Swamiji is also attacked by Maya. So for that, Prabhupada replied the below answer.
Thank you so much. I hope everybody read once. I didn't miss anyone. Okay, so it's interesting going. I want to read this one again from here. Vrindavan is an inspiration only, but our real friend, real field work is all over the world. Even if I die, you are my future hopes and you will do it. I'm feeling very much for all of you, for you all. Please let the ball roll on just as it is set. Brahmananda wrote from New York asking for an explanation of why Swamiji, a pure devotee, was suffering serious illness. Swamiji had explained that conditioned souls and even beginning devotees are attacked by Maya. But was Swamiji also being attacked by Maya? On August 14, Srila Prabhupada replied, why is suffering? I think earlier devotees realized that different regions is taking karma of devotees as well, disciples as well, but I don't be afraid of my being attacked by Maya. When there's a fight between two belligerent parties, it is always expected that there will sometimes be reversals. Your country and the Western world is mostly under the grip of Maya and the modes of nature in passion and ignorance. And my declaration of war against the Maya is certainly a great battle. Maya saw me very successful within 1 year, so that I got so many sincere young followers like yourself and others. So it was a great defeat to the activities of Maya. Western country, youngsters giving up illicit sex, intoxication, meditating, and gambling is certainly a great reverse in the activities of Maya. Therefore, she took advantage of my old age weakness and gave me a death dash. But Krishna saved me. Therefore, we should thank more Krishna than eulogize Maya. So far as my present health is concerned, I think I'm improving. At least I'm taking lunch better than in New York. So as soon as I am a little fit to return to the field of battle, I shall again be in your midst. Srila Prabhupada envisioned an American house, a place where resident disciples could study Sanskrit and Vaishnava literature in Vrindavan. When he had suffered his stroke, he had said that Rai Ram should finish the translation of the Bhagavatams. He had already requested Achyutananda, Gaurasundara, and others to learn Sanskrit, Bengali, and Hindi, so that if he did not recover, they would carry on his work. and he hoped that some of his leading men like Brahmananda, Hayagrip, and Rairam would come to India, obtain property, and establish his American house. Even if I am well, he wrote on September 9th, it is not possible for me to look after the affairs of the American house. So Brahmananda knew still, why Swamiji is suffering. Is he attacked by Maya? His question. So Prabhupada, don't worry about Maya. Maya is because Western world is mostly under the grip of Maya, and there's a war between Prabhupada and Maya. And when someone is sincere devotees are giving up all this thing, Maya is attacking his health. So, but Krishna is protecting. And as soon as I become a little better, I will come and be amongst all of you. So he said that while in the meantime, so much of services has been given to Rairam and Brahmanand, everybody, they should continue their work. And American House, interestingly, it looks like it was called, at the beginning, it's called American House. And if you all know, right, in Vrindavan, the temple is called, ISKCON temple is called English temple in one sense. It's temple of English people. So in India, they till now it's called English ISKCON, but it's the English temple, English people's temple. So anyway, so his plans is that he wants to work on that, but he cannot do it. He will rely on that. So if I'm not there, you please carry on the mission. But even if I'm there, I need all of your help to build this house. Okay, Prasanthi, please. Prasanthi, you there?
Prabhupada decided to ask one of his god brothers, Swami B.H. Bon Maharaja, to accommodate some students from America at his Institute of Oriental Philosophy. Swami Bon Maharaja's institute was a provincial college of about 300 students located in Vrindavana and affiliated with Agra University. It was what is known in India as a degree college, an institute geared toward improving the economic condition of its graduates by making them eligible for better jobs. When Srila Prabhupada and Kirtanananda visited Swami Bon Maharaja at the Institute of Oriental Philosophy, Swami Bon received them in a clear parlor furnished with chairs, couches, and a radio. Swami Bon, wearing leather slippers, shorts visible through his thin dhoti, and an iron shirt with brass studs, appeared salve and sophisticated. An educated man with straight, neatly parted graying hair. Although a resident of Vrindavana, in the 1930s, he spent several years in England, where he had been received by members of the royal family and had lectured at a number of colleges, but he had aroused no lasting interest. When Prabhupada had been struggling alone in New York in 1965, he had written to Swami Bon asking for help, but Swami Bon had not responded. Even now, as Prabhupada told him of the work in America, Bon Maharaja didn't have much to say, but he was interested in the prospect of Americans coming to live and study at his institute. Foreign students would enhance the prestige of the institute in the eyes of the government. He said the students could possibly be accommodated free of charge. Encouraged by the meeting with Bon Maharaja, Prabhupada wrote several letters to his disciples inviting them to come and study Sanskrit. Swami Bon Maharaja was one of Prabhupada's godbrothers, and Prabhupada approached him so that some of his students can get admission in his institute and they can learn Sanskrit. He has like 300 students in his institute, and it is affiliated with Agra University. And it is trying to empower the youth and make them eligible for better jobs. And both Srila Prabhupada and Kirtanananda visited Swami Bhavan Maharaja at his institute, and he was a resident in Vrindavana from 1930s. He spent several years in England, and he had been received by the members of the royal family and has lectured at number of colleges. And Prabhupada had asked Bhavan Maharaj for help earlier, and he also explained about his students and Prabhupada told him about his work in America, but Bhavan Maharaja is mostly interested in having the American students joining at his institute so that it will increase the prestige of his institute. And then he agreed to allow the students free of charge to learn Sanskrit.
Yeah,
So,
thank you.
yeah, Prabhupada also invited his students to come.
Yes, I have to see what is. I think maybe some of the students will come probably for studying. But Bhavan Maharaj's institute is, I think, if I see, just across the ISKCON temple in Vrindavan. It's interesting, very neatly it has been maintained. I don't know what do they do, but it looks very neat, neatly maintained. AJ?
Yep. On right on, is it on Janmashtami or is that one?
If you want to learn.
Okay. If you want to learn Sanskrit, there is ample opportunity in this institute. We had some preliminary talks, and it is hopeful that Swami Bhavan. It's hopeful that Swami Bhavan can give us some land for our own building. But even so, arrangements can be made with the facilities so that there would be no difficulty for the students who come here to study Sanskrit and the Goswami literature. It is a good opportunity for our students, and I shall be very glad to learn how many of you desire to come. On Janmashtami Day, August 28th, Srila Prabhupada awarded the Order of Sannyas to Kirtananda in a ceremony in the Radha Damodar temple. Kirtananda thus became Srila Prabhupada's first disciple to become a sannyasi, Kirtananda Swami. During the initiation, hundreds of visitors were present observing the birthday of Lord Krishna, and many of them came by to congratulate the young sannyasi. Someone said he looked like Lord Chaitanya. Srila Prabhupada wrote, "He will be going back to the States very soon to begin preaching work with greater vigor and success. In the meantime, I shall try to utilize this white sannyasi for recruiting some members in India." Early in September, Achyutananda arrived in Delhi. A Hindu lady gave him 5 rupees and he took the train to Mathura, where he got directions to the Kesavaji Gadya Math. Narayana Maharaj, a friend of Prabhupada's, took Achyutananda under his care, and after showing him the hall where Prabhupada had taken sannyas in 1959, put him on a bus to Vrindavan with an old gentleman for an escort. Accompanied by this escort, Achyutananda arrived by rickshaw before the Radha Damodar temple. Achyutananda walked into Prabhupada's room and fell prostrate to his feet. "Oh," Prabhupada said, "you are here." When Achyutananda looked up, he saw that Swamiji had a 5-day beard and he was wearing only one piece of cloth wrapped around his waist from behind, crossed over his chest and tied behind his neck. Prabhupada smiled, apparently in good health. Kirtananda Swami also greeted Achyutananda and showed him the new danda. Oh, his new danda. So yeah, they're at the temple for Janmashtami, and Kirtananda takes sannyas that day and becomes Kirtananda Swami. And people were sitting there saying like, "Hey, this guy kind of looks like Lord Chaitanya," and Prabhupada gave him his, gave Kirtananda his mission, right? His goal is to go back to the States and continue preaching and spreading Krishna consciousness in America. But, until then, Prabhupada was hopeful that he'd help recruit some devotees in India in the meantime. And then it talks about I struggle with that name. Achyutananda arrived in Delhi and he went to the Gaudiya Math, and one of Prabhupada's old friends kind of showed him around and showed him where Prabhupada had taken sannyas, and then sent him on his way to Vrindavan. And when he got to the Radha Damodar temple, he met Prabhupada again, and Prabhupada sounds like he was looking a little shaggy, had a little beard going, and was just wearing I guess just wearing a piece of cloth wrapped around him, but appeared to be in good health. So I don't know what a danda is.
Danda?
Yeah.
Danda is the people of Sanya, devotees of Sannyas or renounced order,
Okay.
they will be awarded those sticks.
Okay.
In our Sampradaya, that represents, it's a symbol that they are renounced order.
It's the staff.
It represents mind, body, and soul, everything. They will serve the surrenders to the Krishna.
Okay.
In service to Krishna. So that's what they get. In our first initiation, we get beads, neck beads, tilak, like that.
Yeah.
So in second initiation, we get Brahmin thread.
Threaded. Yeah.
The thread which goes around in our body, at the Brahmins, to chant the Gayatri. We worship Lord Krishna through those mantras, and eligible for the deity worship. Then the third, this sannyas order is renounced order. I hope everyone knows that. No going back to Grihastha ashram family, no associating women. It's the first Prabhupada, the big thing, giving sannyas to it's unusual. And Kirtananda Swami got sannyas. Now looks like Achyutananda also, he will get sannyas very soon. So one by one is coming and getting sannyas in India. That's great. So their whole position situation will become changed. They become Swami now, and he becomes Swami, right? Achyutananda is seeing now how Kirtananda is now addressed as Swami. It's a very high status social order. In the highest ashram is sannyasi. And everyone should offer respect and bow down because they're completely dedicated to the service of the Supreme Lord. That's what we can say tonight. We have a few minutes before I end. Tomorrow is very special. Anyone remembers when ISKCON was registered?
It's like was it the 10th?
Huh?
The 10th?
July 10th?
Yeah, right?
I was testing.
I think so. Oh no, it's
Yeah.
the 14th. Okay.
Yes, I think July 10th only. Tomorrow we will be hosting our governing body commission, basically Sanatama Prabhu. He will be with us in June. I think I will share if I haven't shared yet. So we will dial into the different meeting ID. You can see the screen I'm showing. Everybody can see the screen which I'm showing. I don't know.
Yeah.
You see that?
Yep.
Okay, good. So I don't know what you see actually.
WhatsApp message.
Oh, in a WhatsApp I'm showing, right. Please join. We will have, I suggested 7:30 so that it coincides with our group. And I hope other devotees will join and take advantage of this association. It's a celebration for the followers of, some or other we came. Because of ISKCON only, we are surviving, we are benefiting so much. So Anutama Prabhu will give his talk on tomorrow. Okay, we'll end it here. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Prabhupada Lilamrita ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna. Have a good night.
Good night.